everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of Momentum Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Wherever you are in the world today, my name is Michael Hardinge, and thank you all so much for tuning in today. We've got a really interesting topic to talk about. But before we get to that, happy NAIDOC Week to everyone who is joining us today. And as we normally do in our title here, but I thought I'd just mention, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we are on today, which is the Wurundjeri people, and here in Hillsville where the studios are, which is Corrindurk land. So thank you to everyone joining us today. Big show today, and if you got any questions you want answered or have anything that you want to discuss when it comes to photography, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. But to have those conversations and to get kick-started in talking about photography is the very talented Darcy Campbell. So Darcy, welcome to Momentum Live.
Thank you very much. I'm excited.
For sure, it's so good to have you here. So for those who may not have heard of you before or seen your photography, tell us a little bit about what you do, what sort of stuff you normally take photos of.
Awesome. So I suppose more so on a professional level, I currently take photos for a small company doing automotive photography. So we travel from car dealership to car dealership, taking photos of their luxury cars, their day-to-day cars, and editing and uploading them on all of their social media websites. But I
Nice.
suppose as more of a creative, I really enjoy landscape photography, nature photography, portrait photography. I kind of dabble in a bit of everything, really. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, it sounds like you certainly keep yourself busy there. So, I mean, let's go back to the beginning for you. What originally got you interested in photography?
Wow. I suppose the biggest thing I can recall is I actually discovered who Peter McKinnon was on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that was the inspiring moment for me to be like, oh, you can do so much with a photo. I want to see what I can do with it. And then went out to my local Ted's cameras and bought myself the entry level Nikon and just started shooting away. And that was sort of the inspiration behind getting into photography for me.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's so telling of how, I guess, our generation and like this wave of like new creatives coming in has got into creative things, just like finding really incredible YouTubers and, accounts on Instagram and people like Peter McKinnon, who have kind of really paved the way for just a whole new wave of like creatives to start making stuff. And I think just because we're in a stage now where it's really, everyone's got an amazing camera on their phone even, so like there's kind of no excuses to like get out there and take photos that look really good.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I am curious though, because back when we went to high school together, and back when you were in high school, you had this a pretty big passion for acting. So what was it that made you go from wanting to, I guess, be in front of the camera to then be behind the camera?
That's a great question. I think the thing I really enjoyed about acting was stepping into someone else's shoes, but also watching such an awesome production of a group of people putting all their creative minds together and creating something special. And I think that
Mm,
that was kind of really inspiring for me to continue on after high school when there wasn't as much of that, I suppose, activity going around, but I still wanted to
yeah,
get out there and be creative and create something and put it in front of myself. And I think photography was just kind of like the obvious choice for me. Like rather than being able to go to school and build a set and design costumes and come up with scripts and work on pieces, it was sort of like, oh, I can just you know get my camera and bring everything to me and go out and do stuff and take photos. So that was kind of the stepping stone to photography, I guess.
yeah, totally. I mean, unfortunately, what acting's one of those things where it's there's not a whole lot of work going around for heaps of
No.
people, but everyone needs photos in this day of social media as well. So yeah, that's such a good point. So, where would you like to see your career as a photographer take you in the future?
That's something I'm still trying to figure out now, I guess. I mean,
Mm,
taking photos of cars every day is a lot of fun, but at the
yeah.
same time, it can be kind of repetitive. I want to really get out there and do something creative in the far future. I think
Mm,
working in something like production or like music production and doing all the behind the scenes sort of stuff and really getting those beautiful candid shots of people that are normally so staged and in front of the camera, whereas getting
yeah.
that candid shot of maybe an artist working on something they've been striving for a while. Doing something in that sort of creative field would be something that I really want to get into in the future for sure.
Yeah, totally. And I think one thing I'd love to quickly chat about now is before the world ended, you actually had the opportunity to go on a photography expedition to Antarctica. So we've got a couple of shots of that as well, and some of these images are just incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Um, I love them. So tell us, what was that experience like for you?
That experience was actually one of the best worst experience I've ever had. I actually, unfortunately, on the expedition, I got really unwell. I
No.
had all sorts of the flus and temperatures, and unfortunately, I was bedridden for a couple of days. But the days that I did get out and about and on the ice and seeing all the penguins and the nature, like honestly, it was absolutely breathtaking. Like just the cold air alone was just such a shock to the body. But
Mm,
yeah, I don't know. It was everything I wanted and more. It was so beautiful. Like it was just so picturesque, and you could literally just point and shoot in any direction, and you knew you were going to get a great photo. But
yeah.
getting nice and up close to the penguins and the seals and just Mother Nature itself was just phenomenal.
Yeah, totally. You always know you're in a good place where like you don't have to ever worry about what direction you point the camera in. It's just going to
Yeah,
capture an
exactly.
amazing image. But yeah, I think these shots, for example, are such a good example of what you were talking about earlier. Like, you can only take a photo of a car so many times before it gets a bit boring, but um just your ability here to kind of capture things in just like in the moment and just in a natural way is so unique. So
Thank you.
and you do like an amazing job of capturing both portraits and landscapes as well. Do you have like a favorite to do? Do you kind of like to get them together in a sense, like take portraits in nature or landscape? What's kind of like your favorite thing to do creatively?
I don't really know. It's kind of a hard question, really. I think in the sense of whether I'm taking something in a landscape or a portrait lens, like it's really dependent on the subject. But I don't know. I really just enjoy all of it, and I just sort of
Mm,
whatever sort of flows naturally is what I tend to go with best.
yeah, yeah, nice. Okay, so um, obviously this year's been a bit challenging creatively at the I think creatively at the last thing we think of about challenges in this year, but it's certainly been a tough year to be creative and find inspiration. So would you have any tips for people who might be struggling to find the inspiration when it comes to taking creative photos at the moment?
For sure. I think something I've definitely taken from COVID, and we hear it time and time again, but we literally are all in this together. Like we are
Mm,
all in the same boat. We all are struggling in our own ways and in our own fields. But I think definitely on a creative level, just take the time to take a breath and find the beauty in whatever's in front of you. Like if you're stuck at home and you've got nothing to do and you still want to be creative, then pull your camera out or pull whatever device out that it is that you're using and just photograph something that you never thought you'd photograph, whether it be a chair or a table, and just try and find a unique way of editing it, whether it's in an abstract way or anything. Personally, for me, I felt really down during isolation, during COVID, and not being able to get out amongst nature and take all the photos I wanted to take. But I actually
mm.
ended up going online and buying myself a little Mandalorian figurine from the Mandalorian series on Disney Plus, and I actually just moved him around the house and was just taking really cool snaps and photoshopping in different backgrounds and just using that as a bit of a time wasting tool. But it was heaps of fun and it kept the creative flow going. So I think the only advice I would say is just if you need a break, take the break. We all need it sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you still want to be creative, then just look around you and utilize what you have because there's beauty in everything, really.
That's such a good point. I was even testing a new camera the other day, and it was like wasn't great weather outside. It was kind of like raining, and it's like, oh, I don't want to take it outside and get wet. And I was like, oh, I can't be creative in my house. But then I was like, why don't I just try something different? And then I ended up finding some shots that I would have never have taken previously that actually looked really, really nice. And I was like, oh, I'm glad I kind of just pushed myself to try and be creative,
Yeah,
even though I wasn't quite feeling it. So
you
yeah,
can be so
definitely.
amazed with what you can do when you just push yourself to do something. Like,
Mm,
especially on a creative level, you can really surprise yourself, I think.
yeah, yeah, totally. So when it comes to photography, I guess anyone has the ability to take a photo, but in your opinion, what do you think makes the difference between a good photo and a great photo?
I think when it comes to photography, there's a lot of like composition and symmetry and all that sort of stuff that's involved. But I think the biggest thing is just something that's meaningful, something that you find beauty in or find value in. And I think art and photography and cinematography, it's also subjective. So I think really it's whatever you think is a beautiful moment or whatever you think is really captivating. But I suppose on a general level, anything that's really for me personally, something that's symmetrical and easy on the eye and easy to look at, that's something that I find to be a good image. But from a
Mm,
personal level and an artistical level, I think it's whatever you find stunning.
yeah. That's actually a really good point, I think, because everyone, yeah, I mean, you put it perfectly itself. Like it's kind of subjective art, and everyone's gonna have different things that mean different things to them. And you might take a beautiful photo that someone else might not care about, but if it means a lot to you, then
Yeah,
that's still such a good thing to be able to capture that moment. And
especially
yeah,
if like there may be some sort of sentimental or nostalgia involved. Like my boss Lee, he was actually going out and taking photos earlier on last year, and he was just going out and taking photos of all of the old Pizza Hut buildings because obviously Pizza Hut's not around anymore. But
yeah,
some of the old iconic tile square roof has been
mm,
still all over Melbourne and all over Australia, and they're McDonald's or service stations or whatever. And he was just going out and shooting that because it was sort of like a nostalgic type thing, like seeing those Pizza Huts and that iconic roof everywhere and being able to
yeah.
shoot that. Like, sure, I mean, to the average person or to a professional photographer, they might not see that as a good image, but if there's a sense of feeling or nostalgia attached to it, then I think that's something that's awesome.
Such a good point. Yeah. And I guess flipping it on the other side now, what do you think are a few common mistakes that you see a lot of, uh, you know, budding photographers or like people just starting out on their photography journey? What are some mistakes that they commonly make?
Um, I think I think the over editing an image
Yep.
um, is something that is a huge common mistake. You see all these people, they may be their first time photographers, and look, I was the same when I first started. But when you
Also guilty.
ridiculously
Yeah.
when you ridiculously edit an image and it's got this horrific black vignette around the whole thing and everything's turquoise and this and that, and
But
look,
it's artsy though.
it is. It's artsy, It's the Instagram filters. They work wonders. But I think that's the mistake that a lot of people make, including myself. I was definitely one of those people. But I think my advice to them is just focus on what you're photographing. Focus on the subject, and I think that's where you're really striving in your creative element and really focusing on what you're capturing, where you are, and all that sort of stuff first, rather than just taking a photo and be like, oh, I'm going to slap a really good Instagram edit on this. It's going to look great.
Yep. No, that's a good point. I think especially as well if you're working with humans, for example, I think the connection with the human is in a lot of ways more important than the actual photo itself.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you're going to be spending time with this person, you want to be able to capture them. They need to feel comfortable with you. You need to have that connection there so they can, you know, um, I was going to say deliver you the results if they're a model, for example. But yeah, be able to connect and be in a position where you can kind of both gel and make the best photos possible, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely. I think you can go out and do a photo shoot with a model who knows exactly what they're doing, and you can sort of tell them to work in a certain way or position themselves in a certain light, and you can create some nice images. But I think if
Mm.
you have that general chemistry with someone and actually connect with them on a personal level, you can create such better photography because you can see the light in their eyes, you can see that they're comfortable, you can see that they're happy and that they're enjoying themselves. And I think that just on itself just speaks through all the images over just someone standing in a certain position or putting on a fake smile.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure. So if anyone has any questions for Darcy about photography, definitely let us know. We're monitoring both the chats on YouTube and Facebook. So any questions, let us know. We'd love to hear from all of you. Um, so I think earlier you mentioned that you kind of like began like just going into like your nearest camera store and buying a relatively cheap camera. And that's something I wanted to chat to you about because I think a lot of people, and again, I'm guilty of this as well, we get tied up in the gear, having a really nice camera. Um, I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, do you think gear really matters that much?
I think I think it does, and I also think it doesn't. I watched a YouTube video actually recently from Parker Welbeck, I think his name is, and
Yeah,
it was a beginner cinematographer takes out his $30,000 red camera, and then the
yeah.
professional cinematographer takes out his $600 Nikon,
I
and
saw that. Yeah, that
yeah,
was a great
it
video.
was a great
Yeah,
video, and it really does show that, like, yes, there are huge benefits to having really good quality gear because you can get such high resolution film or photography, but nothing's going to really do as well as someone who's experienced or knows what they're doing or knows how to operate that equipment. I think that
yeah,
definitely having great equipment is a huge advantage, but I think knowing how to use it is the bigger advantage. I think,
yeah.
like, personally for me, like, I'm yet to upgrade from my crappy little Nikon, so I actually still go ahead and use it. And I think now that I've really mastered that technology and I know how to use it, I have been able to really sort of pick it apart and go, okay, yeah, well, it's a crop sensor camera, so the natural light doesn't come in as much, and I need this camera and I need that, but at least I've used it, I know how to use it, and now if I
Mm,
want to upgrade, I know what I'm getting, rather than being a beginner photographer and spending $5,000-6,000 on a camera and not even knowing how to shoot it, you know?
yeah. I mean, these photos do not look like entry camera level photos. They look incredible, and I think that's
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's totally about the person behind the camera, not what the camera is. Like yeah, that video is such a great example. Um, but yeah, you could give Roger Deakins or any of those incredible DPs like a GoPro or an iPhone, and they'd still be able to go shoot something that probably looks better than giving someone that doesn't have that experience,
Yeah.
$100,000 camera and going go make a film.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, such a good point. Um, cool. Okay, so finally getting back to work. I guess all of us are finally sort of being able to get back to doing creative stuff. For our international viewers, Melbourne's been in a relatively strict lockdown over the last couple of months due to COVID, but we're finally coming out of that now. So how does it feel to kind of like be getting back to work after this past year?
It feels great, honestly. It really was a very isolated period where we were all sort of very restricted with where we could go and what we could do and all that sort of stuff. But it feels good to be back at work. And you really do have to practice that sort of that gratitude and being like, wow, I really don't realize how easy I've got it or how much I enjoy my job until you have all this forced time off and then have to go back and do it again. So
Yeah,
I think all of the things that you may have found, well, especially me, anything that I found originally boring or frustrating or annoying about the job that I was working has immediately dissipated now that I can go back to work because it's just like, oh,
yeah,
all those things are just so trivial
mm,
in the world that we live in now. And to be
yeah.
back, I'd rather deal with that than not be at work at all. Absolutely, any day of the week. So it's great. I'm really enjoying it.
Totally. I think in general, everyone's like, and this isn't specific to creative, but I think, especially in Melbourne, everyone's come out of this so much more resilient and grateful.
Mm,
Everyone's just so thankful to be able to do those things that we took to our, took advantage of or, didn't really think they were important. But now when we, when we had them taken away from us for so many months, we're like, oh, I'd love to be able to, go do my job or
yeah,
you know
exactly.
go have drinks with friends or something like that. So yeah, such a good point there. Mike on Facebook has another fantastic photographer, so thank you for joining us, Mike. Has a question. He has a rule that no matter what the job is, he has to get a photo for him. Do you have a similar rule to that?
Not necessarily. I think I definitely do enjoy each job that I do, and I try and do take something away from it. But I think I always manage to find my favorite image of that particular shoot, even if it is on my day to day job out at car dealerships or car yards. I'll still find an image where I'm like, oh, yeah, that's my photo of the day. Like
Yep.
whether it's for me or for the client or whatever. I definitely find something. I'm like, yeah, that's my perfect shot for the day. I'm really happy with that shot.
Yep.
Especially when I'm doing something creative. And I go, oh, I can't wait to get home and edit that and make it look even more spectacular. So,
Mm.
same, but sort of different as well. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think we do that in a slightly different way. We take a lot of like behind the scenes photos and videos for that. That's kind of what like our thing is for the day. So instead of like getting a shot for us or something, we kind of like, oh, we might be able to capture a really cool moment in time where we're like being in the zone and getting creative and like this
Yeah,
like nice action shot of us doing stuff. So that's how we kind of get one for ourselves sort of thing. But yeah, really interesting question there. I think
that's a great
that
question.
yeah, I mean even just for like posting content to like your Instagram, even if you are working for a client, if you were able to get one for
Yeah.
yourself there, that might be a great way to kind of
It's actually,
yeah.
you know what? I might actually steal that. I think that's a great idea because I think
Mm,
it's huge motivation while you're doing the job, and it's a bit of it's something nice. I think that's a really cool way of looking at it. I never thought of doing that, but to take something away from a shoot for my own personal sort of like little self, it's just like a pat on the back. Like I think that's a really cool idea. So I might do that
mm.
for sure.
It's certainly oh, just bashed my mark, excuse me everyone. Certainly gives you something to like push you to do better, to like to get that shot for yourself as well. Like obviously we
Absolutely.
want to look after our clients and make sure we're doing the best job as possible all the time, but I feel like that might give you like a bit of an extra push to kind of just go that extra step. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, thanks for commenting, Mike. Yeah, really good question and I
That's
guess
great.
advice there for sure. So I guess to kind of, I'm just going to check if I've got anything on YouTube, but it's kind of wrapping up here. Um, going back about 7 or 8 years now, we actually worked on a very different kind of project together. For those who've been following Momentum since the very beginning, in the infancy of Momentum, we wrote and shot and made this action short film called The Escape Plan, and Darcy over here was the star in that, or one of the co-stars. So, take me back to 2013 when you were working on that. What was one of like the highlights of making that film for you?
Wow, I don't even know. I honestly look back at that as what an incredible experience that was. I honestly came out of that feeling like such a little celebrity. Like we got plastered all over the local paper, and we got to go see the live viewing, and had journalists come out and say g'day and do a little signature and look all
Mm.
nice. But honestly, I felt incredible that entire project. I think the thing that I really, really miss and really, really enjoyed was just how organized you were, and it was so professional. I genuinely felt like I was out on a movie set. You had the full camera gear and the cranes, and we had scripts we had to learn and costume changes and all this sort of stuff. And I loved it. I loved everything. I've already forgotten the question. I'm just rambling on about how great it was. But
No, I mean it was certainly good fun. I think one of that films was a good example of me thinking I needed a lot of fancy gear to make a cool movie. So yeah, we had all these camera cranes, which I honestly don't think I've used since we made that production, and
oh,
more than
no
maybe
way.
once or twice. It's sitting like less than 2 meters away from me, but I don't think I've ever touched it because I'm like it doesn't make sense to use it all the time.
Well, you know what? I'm
Um,
still waiting for part two. So you say the word. I'll start learning lines again.
there is we found, but okay, we were thinking about making a part two. Back on when we were like, oh, it's amazing, everyone loves it. It's got like 2,000 views on YouTube. We're killing it, guys. We should make a part
We're
two.
superstars.
Yeah. And we have the script. I feel like I found it when we were doing some spring cleaning a little while ago, and it's still kind of funny. I read a few pages. It was a ridiculous amount of
You
pages.
gotta
It was like
send it to me.
46 pages for a short film. That yeah. Anyway, that's good fun. I was actually going to play the trailer today, but
Oh
I
no.
couldn't bring myself to it to
Yeah,
to play it
smart
on the
move on
show.
your end, I think.
Yeah, I think it would. I mean, for one, it'd probably get us demonetized, unfortunately, because it's a fair few swear words in it. Um, but yeah, what would be really cool in a couple of weeks or sometime in the future, would you want to come back and like watch the show live? Sorry, watch the film live on the show and kind of like do a bit of like a live reaction video or something
I would
like that?
love that.
Yeah.
I would love that. I'm not gonna act like I haven't seen it recently because I have.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was laying in bed with my girlfriend and we were just watching it and just having an absolute laugh.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Um, been a while since I've seen it though, so maybe I'll hold. It's probably been a good year maybe since I've seen it. I watched the trailer last night and I was like, oh god, okay. But yeah, maybe we'll get back on the show soon and we can kind of watch it and reminisce and make fun of how well it was good at the time. For what it was. I think one of the things I actually remembered is I kept critiquing it after the fact, and I still will, because obviously it's the first thing we ever made, so it wasn't amazing. But I remember a quote from our media teacher, or one of the media teachers at our school, Emma Steeper. I was complaining to her going, oh, the first one isn't very good, so if I make a better sequel, then I'm going to have to remake the first one and do all this sort of stuff. And I was just complaining, basically.
Yeah.
And I remember, still to this day, she was like, oh no, the film that you made when you were like 16 wasn't very good. That's a shame. So
Shout
that
out
certainly
Miss Steeper and Mr. Mackenzie.
Yeah, for sure. And that certainly put it into perspective for me. But it'll be a good laugh. So maybe in the near future we'll get you back on and we can watch it live and cringe and laugh in real time.
I'd love that.
Perhaps.
That would be great.
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, Darcy, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. And hopefully we can see you back on set sometime soon as well. It's
fantastic.
I'd love to sort of get something happening now. We can all kind of start filming together as well. But yeah, enjoy taking photos, enjoy your freedoms, and hopefully we'll be able to chat to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Thanks, Darcy. Anytime. And thank you all so much for watching. We've really enjoyed this series. And next week, we've also got a super exciting show. We have Ben Luck, a very talented cinematographer, joining us. Ben is a fantastic DP. He's shot music videos for people like Anthony Kalia. He's currently filming a feature film. So super, super talented dude. So if you have any questions about cinematography, let us know. We'd love to ask them. We'll be doing that show on Monday next week. So definitely tune in for that. But until then, hope you all get out there and get a little bit creative in your spare time, if you have any, and we'll see you next week.